So what you just saw was a video I shot with my girlfriend Destiny. Shout out Destiny, always coming through. We shot it in this room right here actually, which is just like a room in my house. Nothing special about it at all, a few outlets, but we turned this whole thing into a studio. Shot it like 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. It wasn't too long ago. And I only played about like half of it more or less for this video. So if you want to see the full thing, I got the link for it right here. I think it's gonna be right here. And you'll be able to see the whole thing. It's also on my Instagram, Jaden Duenas _. I'll have that in the links below as well, so you can find it there. My name is Jaden Duenas. I do a whole lot of this like art kind of stuff. I make YouTube videos like this one and many of my others that you can find right here. But if any of that is like interesting to you, hit me with the subscribe, please. Thank you in advance. I know that really anybody watching this is probably watching it because they do similar stuff on their own. Maybe they just want to learn. So if you want to learn, or if you do this on your own, different ways or the same ways, let me know in the comments. I'll be glad to discuss with you. I love being able to discuss and learn more about other people, about the world, about the field that I'm working in. So if you got something to say, let me know. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about a few things just regarding this video. I'm really just taking it through a full process of like start to finish, how we create this. I can tell you right now, the first step wasn't like going out to buy a bunch of equipment. I already own some very base level equipment, like this light right here and like this camera, for example, with the tripod. So like you kind of need some things to get started in this kind of field, but I can tell you right now, my setup, I'm kind of just looking in my closet right here, definitely does not surpass even $1,000. So we can start with that. I don't know the exact value of all my stuff, but it is well below $1,000. So you might have to have some things just like in place already to get started, or go out and like buy the tools to work in this field. But you don't need to go out buying like $2,000, $3,000, $10,000, $15,000 cameras for this kind of stuff. This light, I don't know exactly how expensive it was, but it was not exceeding 100, I don't believe. But I'm gonna get into the setup that I use in a sec. So the idea behind this video is just to kind of take you through the setup process, like how I set this room up, as well as my camera rig, even though I don't know if I could really call it that. We'll get to that though. I want to talk about my lighting setup for the shoot. I'm going to talk about the techniques and different things I did to actually do the shoot. And then finally, I'm going to talk about post-production in terms of editing and coloring. Stay tuned, because in terms of coloring, I'm going to have a free LUT that you can download that I used in that video, two actually. So you can find both of those in the link below, but just keep listening to see like how you might be able to use those and how I use them. So first, just in terms of like transforming this into a studio, I really only just used this. This was the primary focus of our studio setup. And this is a very inexpensive backdrop that I bought off Amazon. Again, I don't have an exact price on it right now. I could look it up pretty easily, but I'm not going to. But just know that my kind of ideology when I'm buying gear like this is if I can find it for less than 100, then I'm gonna do that. If I can find it for less than 50, then I'm gonna do that. This, I believe, was right about 50 something, maybe 60 something dollars on Amazon. And I remember that because the total came out to like 90 something total, and I got a few other things with this pack. So I would say about 60 something dollars can get you one of these very large studio backdrops, or I guess like the stands for them. And then you just need the actual backdrops, and you can buy those. You can buy a cloth one online, again on Amazon usually, or you can find like paper ones. I've seen a lot of paper ones in different photography stores, stuff like that. But they are not hard to come by at all. So I really just set this up along a wall. It gets pretty massive, I'm not gonna lie. I think it extends to like 12 feet across. Maybe that's not massive for everybody, but for this room, it's pretty tight. This thing was massive. So I did that, I set up the cloth in the background, and then I had recently bought this easel right here. Just put this right here. I bought this for actually painting on. I'm gonna have some painting videos coming soon using this. However, it just looked really nice in the shoot, and so I just put it right behind her. And then I use this chair right here. This is usually my chair that I'm sitting in, but Destiny sat in it for one day. So in terms of studio setup, like that was really it. It wasn't much more than just the background, the easel, and a chair to sit on. My camera rig, again, I went over this in a gear video not too long ago. I'll link that up here as well. But I bought this shoulder rig, follow focus, and matte box setup on Amazon for I think $90. And I've been excited to use this. I'm very glad that I bought it. But actually there's a point like halfway through this shoot where I just took it off altogether. I don't think I'm experienced enough in like using a follow focus system yet. And at one point I just kind of got like fed up with trying it, and I went back to just like twisting the focus ring. Both work. I think that this can get better focus, better tracking. However, I was just getting frustrated and I gave up. So now for lighting, I'm gonna put that right here, lighting. So one of the other things that I bought with this backdrop was this like $12 pack of gels on Amazon. This is not all of them. The rest are in the closet. They're all stuck in there somewhere right now. I should do like an organization video, organizing all my gear and my setup stuff that is always out of order. But I just used, here, I'll go find them. It took like 3 seconds to find them, honestly. So the 2 gels that I used specifically was this like pinkish one and this purple. So I don't know if you can see it all, probably not. Both of them are very transparent, and so they don't give like a really harsh effect on the light at all. But they just kind of like tint the picture really nicely, especially using a white background. It was easier to see that. And then I use this ring light right here. Took a clip like this and I just split each of the gels half and half on the ring light. I also use this kind of beat up can light right here. And in the behind the scenes stuff, you can kind of see that like shining from this bottom right corner, I think it'll be on. But because of that light is pretty harsh, I kind of repurposed this like cardboard blinds right here. Real Hollywood, as you can see. Literally just took a cardboard box and just cut holes and like lines into it. But it actually does produce like a really good blinds effect. You'll be able to see that effect in an upcoming video actually. But just because of the nature of this and how it blocks light, it also worked really well as diffusion. And so I just put that right in front of this can light down here, and I just used it kind of just to diffuse the light and make it not as harsh on Destiny's face and in the background as well. Also because using really harsh white lights really just overtakes all the other colors. And so since I was just using this ring light right here with the 2 gels that kind of like subdue the light a little bit, and the ring light already isn't as strong as the can light, I just had to compensate for that. So that's a good trick. If you need to compensate for any color that you want to bring into your video, try diffusing the white and non-colored lights, and that should be able to make your colors stick out just a bit more. Lastly, for lighting, I use this Go light from Tiffin. Again, there's no batteries in here, just like the last video, the gear review, so you can hear more about this in there. But for some reason, I never have batteries in this thing until I'm actually shooting. But I used the tungsten cover for the light. Magnetic, hops on right there, and I just placed it like right off to the side here. I have this little thing that you can't see right there, but placed it right there, turned it on. But it just helps to add like a warmer hue to the colors that I wanted. I didn't want cold pink and purple, I wanted warm pink and purple at the end of the video. So now for shooting, boom, right here. I'm very much like a run and gun videographer. I don't like using like bulky equipment. That's honestly another reason why I took the shoulder rig off. It just was like too much in the way, especially for someone who hasn't used it yet, and like trying to get comfortable with that in the moment. Wasn't feeling it too much, so I just went right back to run and gun, holding my DSLR, doing my camera movements. And so my key for really any videography project is to kind of analyze the physical space. Pre-visualization works a lot of times, especially like in filmmaking, longer projects, more complex projects where you have to think through how you want to shoot things. But if I'm just out here shooting, making some art, like there's really not much to go into it except for like knowing how to use the camera and then using the camera. And so that was my approach with this. I really just started my camera up. I didn't even use any filter. I didn't use any special techniques. I held my camera for the latter half of the video, and I really just tried to create fluid movement that I felt would complement the vision that I had more so for the colors in the video. So let me backtrack to lighting real quick because I'm gonna talk about colors as well. I knew how I wanted to color the video based upon my lighting setup. And so I used that to kind of influence, okay, what kind of camera movement would go well with these colors that I'm expecting to have in this video. Similar to camera movement was kind of the movement of the depth of field and the focus that I used. And so since it was just Destiny sitting, there wasn't really any purpose to have like a tripod, because having that on a tripod really wouldn't have given me any movement. It wouldn't have created any cool effects, anything that I would want to use in the actual final product. And since it wasn't on a tripod, of course, then I can't have just a constant depth of field and a constant focus, because I'm moving the camera, and when the camera moves, the depth of field, like the position of the focusing, is gonna move as well. And so part of the in and out, focus, push and pull that you see in this video comes from the fact that like I was moving the camera and I wanted to get that look and like see it sharpen and come into the image. But another part of that was very intentional, because I knew that that look of the push and pull of the focus would complement the fluid motion as well, and would complement the rest of the video and the coloring as well. These are the kind of things that you got to think about as videographers, especially working on such a limited budget. At the end of the day, this video cost me $0.00. Part of that is due to the fact that I had some equipment to start with, but another part is due to the fact that I try to be as creative as possible with my resources, the things that I have, and I try to be budget conscious with everything that I do. Moving on to some editing talk. The first thing that I do with any projects like this is I just drop all the files in the order that I shot them into Premiere Pro. That is my editing software of choice. I don't have anything against Final Cut or any other software, but Adobe Premiere is like really where it's at for me at least. So I create a sequence, I drop it all in the timeline, and then I just let it play through. Sometimes I'll like fast forward through it. If you don't know how to fast forward in Premiere or these other programs, it is the L key. Use J, K, and L. You can pause, rewind, go fast forward, anything with those 3 keys. I didn't know that till very recently, so I was wasting a lot of time before. But for this, I was able to just like fast forward through and kind of see where the smooth shots were. Since this wasn't pre-visualized at all, there's a lot of just like garbage footage that was me like moving the camera around while it was recording and stuff like that. And so I just play through and I find the points that I really like that I think will go in the end of the video well. And some of those things were things where like, as I was shooting it, I was focused and I knew that this was the shot that I was gonna put into it. But as you can see from the video, there were also some parts that were just messing around, like moving the camera around, looking at different things, just like the mistake kind of footage that I ultimately just decided like, yeah, that'll be cool. And I just threw it in there. So yeah, just the C key, cut. I bring all the footage that I've cut and I do want to use into the second video layer. And then I copy all of those clips. I move the whole sequence over to the right, like just further down the timeline. And then I paste all those clips that I picked, the selects. I paste them into the beginning of the timeline. So now I have like a reference to the original footage and where I cut each of these selects out, and I have the selects in the order that I shot them and how I'm gonna use them later. The next most important pieces to editing run and gun projects like this is the organizing of your select clips that you've selected, the music, and the actual sequencing of the video. I'm grouping those 3 aspects because they all kind of feed into each other. You can't really work on one without the other. So in my mind, it's kind of just a process of like thinking about it all at once and bringing it in all at once. It's not super difficult at all to do, but you're not gonna get it done well unless you're intentionally creative about it. And so when you are organizing, sequencing, picking music, I would try to consider all 3 at the same time to the best of your ability. So for organizing, one thing that I do is I kind of look for types of shots, because at the end of the video, I don't want there to be a bunch of shots that look the exact same one after the other. So I use the Premiere Pro label system, just the different colors of each clip. I use that to kind of organize, okay, this is a medium shot to the best of like my ability to decide that. This is like a close-up, this is like a moving kind of shot, this is like something that's in the background of this one. It's really just however your mind interprets the organization based upon what you're seeing in that video. Once you kind of have them grouped like that, then I would say the next step is like picking the music. And as you're grouping them and as you're cutting them, honestly, you should be looking and thinking the kind of music or whatever other kind of sound you're gonna put in there. Before sequencing, I would suggest having that sound ready though, because it's gonna make it a lot easier to cut the organized files to the sequence of the music and to the beat and to the melody, etc., than it would be to sequence all of them and then just throw a track under and hope for the best. Doesn't really work like that. Through that process, you can also like match the clips to the sound of the music and the different things that are being experienced in the song or the other sounds, whatever it is. And you can be intentionally creative with that as well. One thing I like to do that's not really necessary by any means is kind of organizing the track that I pick into a loop. And so you're gonna have to listen to the track a couple times, but you gotta listen for 2 parts, an in point and an out point, where they can kind of meet at the same beat or melody or sound. So that the end point, the out point runs into the in point. So for this video, I picked Brent Faiyaz Lovely just because my girlfriend is so lovely to me. I listened through the track a couple times other than the like hundreds of times that I've heard it prior, and I just roughly decided that there was one section toward the end that I thought could work well in a loop. And so I kind of picked that rough section, and then I looked, okay, is there like a beat or a sound that I can match to the beginning and the end? And ultimately, I found the same kick at the beginning of that section and at the end of that section. Even though the rest of the song after the end of the section didn't sound the same as the beginning of the section that I picked, just using that one kick, that one sound that sounds the same, helps it flow from the end of that right back into the beginning. Doing that is really great for like Instagram videos because they loop automatically. From there, it's really just a series of decisions and picking and choosing creatively how you want to sequence the clips that you have selected and organized already into that timeline across that song. As you're sequencing your selected clips, I would just try to match the sounds of the music or whatever sound or track you're using with the imagery of the clips that you have selected and organized already. So as you listen through the track, just kind of listen and be like, okay, this part sounds like this video. Obviously it doesn't really sound like it, it's more just like a feeling. Like this one, these blend together well, they go very well together. I would consider the way that you want to open and close your video. You can get creative as well with that in looping if you want to. And again, I would make sure you don't have any shots that are kind of recurring one after the other that look very much the same. It'll just make your video very boring and nobody will want to watch it, and you don't want that. So now to wrap it up, coloring. Again, I'm going to get into this discussion of how I colored this video, but you can find both of these LUTs that I used in the video. Again, there are 2 LUTs that I use in the video, but you can find both of them in the description below. It'll take you to my website. You can download them for free, absolutely free. And then boom, you've got like 2 looks that you can add to your own videos that I think did very well on this one. I hope they do just as well for yours, but let's get to it. This is going to be the quickest part of this video because when I color my videos, I don't do much more than just go into the Premiere Pro, like color, lumetri color, whatever it is, and I just play with the temperature, the tint, the different hues and saturation, etc. Until I find something that works well. For this video in particular, I'll say that I didn't know how I wanted the final product to look. I knew that I wanted a lot of pinks, and that's why I used the pink and purple light gels on my lights. And so although I knew what I was looking for, it was still a matter of just going in there and just messing with the settings. I will say that I used 2 scopes. I don't remember what they're called, but I'll just throw the picture of the 2 scopes right here. But I use that to analyze my video a bit more closely and make sure that I have a wide range of blacks and whites to create depth, as well as the other scope that I'm thinking of right now. That kind of shows me the placement of my video on the color wheel, just like kind of in an array of points on this diagram. But that scope is helpful when you're doing like white balancing. You can see like where your video or photo was laying on that wheel, and just for like fine tuning the hues that you want in your video, just like this one. And so I finally landed on the pink hue that you saw in the original video, and I decided that there were a few shots that I thought would look better with a contrast against these warm pink, like sharp tones. I don't know if you can use sharp to describe like color like that, but in my mind they were sharp, and I wanted to contrast that with something that was a bit more like hazy as well as grainy, a more like film look, and something really desaturated without those pink warm tones. And so that's how I decided to color these shorter clips that are kind of intercut throughout the video. But again, if you're interested in using these LUTs, you can download both of them, the desaturated and the warm pink one as well. You can use those for free, absolutely free. You can download them for free from my website, link below. So just to wrap up, thank you for watching. Hit me with a subscribe if you like this video. Hit me with a like if you like this video. And again, let's discuss below. I'm only gonna say this one more time, I promise, but if you're interested in downloading those LUTs, again, link below. You can find both of them absolutely free to use. Down there, you'll also be able to find all my social media, including my Instagram, my Visco, all that kind of stuff. Go check me out. I appreciate a follow, and for most cases I'll follow back, so why not? Last week's video actually mentioned social media. I'll link that right here. But I had like a pretty serious discussion about that, and I just want you to know that I've been sticking to it. So if you learned anything from that video, let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't watched it yet, again, link is right here. Go watch that, check that out. You can find the original like video project that I'm talking about on my YouTube channel, also on my website, jd-originals.com, and there you'll be able to see my whole web store, all of my prints that are for sale, my paintings, different like clothing pieces that I've painted on. You can see my entire portfolio, including like portraits of myself that I think we're all taken by destiny. Next week, I'm not sure what's going on yet. I do have some things planned that I would like to bring to YouTube, but the last time that I had them planned, they kind of got shut down for some unforeseen reasons. So I'm gonna just keep that low for a little bit. But next week, or hopefully by the next week after that, I'll definitely have something big to have on here again. I can't wait for you to see it. So with that, I'm out.